Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me today. I'm really excited.
My pleasure.
Um, I was just watching your last two episodes last night, and again, I had watched them before, but
Yeah.
I was watching them again and just so moved. So, but before we get into that, what was it like getting the call that you were going to be on one of the like kind of the show of the moment?
I remember that moment. I have a son, he's 3 years old now, and at the time he was, I guess, two and a half. So that is to say that I'm pretty behind on, what's hip in TV and movies these days. It takes me a few days to watch any given movie. But I remember when I got the audition, actually, it's funny, I had just wrapped scoring a feature. I had literally just delivered my stems for this film Coyotes on a Wednesday morning. I think I'd like stayed up most of the night before, but then I had this audition come in and I was like, okay, I've heard of this show. I know I haven't seen it yet, but I think it's just something I should put at the top of my list. And I, you know, taped and put my best foot forward. But I think I had like three auditions that day or something. Like it was a bit randomly busy day. And so, you do it and then you kind of like forget about it. And then I remember about a week or so later, my manager texted me and said, "Oh, you're pinned for the pit." And I was just like, it's amazing that feeling when I think I had simultaneously auditioned for like a Hallmark show or something. And you're like, oh great, I heard from the one that I really wanted. And then I just remember bounding up the stairs and telling my partner, "Oh, I'm pinned for the pit," and both of us were out of the loop at the time. This is a really big show. I know. And then of course I caught up, and now it's just been it's that was before Emmy season had happened too. So of course I had heard wind of the show, but now like I feel like in the last 6 months, not like you can't escape it. It's everywhere. And it's been so wild and really special to, now that this season has aired, to really feel the impact that the show has on audiences. It's just like every day I go out and people are coming up and they've appreciated the performance, and in particular like this role. It was just felt really important to do it right, and to bring all of my heart to it. So to have people who have like experienced something like that in their life uh come up to me, it feels like it's more than just, "Oh, hey, I liked your work on whatever movie, that was fun." It's like, "Oh, this really impacted me in a human way," and that was my goal. So it's been really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like the first day that you stepped onto the set? How was the cast? How was the crew? What did that feel like for you?
It was, well, it's funny because I guess once I found out I booked it, I probably had about 2 weeks maybe before my first day of filming. And so I binge watched the first season, like as many episodes as I could, while, prioritizing prepping the role. So I was probably maybe about 6 or 7 episodes deep into the first season. And then I landed on set and I was like, it was as if I had stepped into this world that I was now a fan of, and because of how it's shot, you really feel like, oh, I have just stepped into this hospital, and to be honest, it was I made the decision then and there that I was going to stop watching season one because I needed to believe that these people I was acting opposite were my doctors. Like I didn't want to be a fangirling.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a few of us who were jumping on that day had a similar experience of like, whoa, where have I landed? But everyone was so warm. I remember when I first met Noah Wiley, like he's such a powerful and calming and welcoming presence. And I don't know if I've ever felt that stepping onto a show before, just such a genuine appreciation for, the people who had come to be a part of it. And even in the audition, actually, they put a little note in the breakdown for actors that are taping for it, and it says something along the lines of, this is a unique show. The way we work is different. And so we're looking for people to really, be a team player. And I didn't know quite what that meant. I did a little bit of research in the lead up. And then I learned, and it was a very unique experience, with a lot of beautiful, creative collaboration and flow that you don't get on a lot of shows, and then its own unique set of challenges because of how they shoot.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things because I've been on board with the show since the day it premiered. I've been
Yeah,
such a big fan of the Pit, but I think one of the reasons that it resonates with me and with a lot of people is the fact that you really get to spend time with characters like yours where it's in a lot of medical dramas, the patients, you might see them maybe for 2 episode arc, but usually it's just 1 episode, you get their whole story and that's it. But
you're right. Yeah.
for you, you're in what, 6 or 7
Yeah.
episodes, and so we
Seven.
really get
Yeah.
to spend time with you. So can you talk about, as an actor, what the kind of a little bit more about that difference in that experience?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a gift to have that time to really sink your teeth into a person whose life you're trying to, embody. But it's interesting too because even though it's 7 episodes, it's only 7 hours. It's not that's obviously the main hook of the show. And And on most sets of this nature, as a patient, you would probably work maximum 2 days an episode, and you'd shoot all your scenes back to back to back because they would just shoot out that room. And on this show, I'm sure everyone knows they shoot chronologically. So you would come in for your one scene, and then maybe you'd spend a couple days doing background essentially, and then you would they if you're in scene 3, you're shooting on a Monday, and if you're in scene 12, you're shooting on a Wednesday or Thursday, and but really only like a few minutes have passed in that time. So yeah, so it's interesting because it's tempting when you're shooting over that many months to, you're like, okay, what can I bring a little different to it this time, or what how can I really make sure that I encompass this the fullness of this person and all the kind of history that I've built for them, and bring that to the work. But it's also, you have to kind of keep that part of you in check because it really is just it's a snapshot of their life, and so it was about building all that history, and then I guess just kind of trusting that each moment will, serving each moment. And that was a cool thing once I kind of got used to it. It's easy when you're only shooting one scene a day, though, to be like, oh, it's my big scene. Like when you have to shoot 5 scenes in a day and they take place over, I've had the last show I did was Dexter, and I remember one of my first days. um I was opposite Christian Slater. I met him in the morning, and then I think we shot from episode like 1 to episode 6 in this one location, and our relationship, has advanced massively from 1 to 6. So you're containing a lot inside of you, and you're really kind of like, you have to know the arc inside and out already for that one day. And it can be a real challenge, and I usually do not sleep a wink before a day like that, and somehow still manage to, just adrenaline gets me through, I guess. But there is something nice about, you get a real flow going, and so you're just on set all day, and it's no big deal one scene to the next, versus when you're maybe, when you're just called in for that one scene, and it's easy to kind of use your time off to get in your own way, and get in your head a little bit. So that was a challenge at first, and then once I settled into it, it was really beautiful because I was like, okay, great, all I have to do is just like this window. What is And for Roxie, she is at such a, the most pivotal moment of her life. And so every 5 minutes, that we meet her, she is going through something pretty, like it, like the journey just goes deeper and deeper inside of herself. And so it is, though the window of time is short, there is something new to explore, I suppose, with each moment. And so it was beautiful to just kind of be like, okay, today is about this, and really just about giving into this, um, where she's at in her acceptance, or in her anger, or in her sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as the character of Roxie, or for that character, obviously, coming in, this is the end of her life, and this is, she's in the emergency room and dealing with, I think it's a broken arm, and then the pain from that, and the cancer, and all of these things happening at once. But how much how much were you given about who she was as a person prior to this day that we're meeting her?
Not much, just the clues that are in the script. Um, just the way she speaks about her husband and her sons, and the rest was really for me to fill in. But that's a huge part of my process, um, because I think, when you really kind of know, like, we all carry our own history with us constantly. We're existing in this moment, but we have whatever thought from in the back of our head, and when someone brings something up, we have a flash to that moment in our past. And with Roxie and Paul, it was really important, and their kids, it was really important that I build the life that they had, and the life that they dreamed of having beyond the diagnosis. All the plans that they were making, and the what they had been through as a couple, and the what was unique about their love for each other, and just the beautiful, joyful moments that they had all experienced together, so that I could then build, what did it feel like when those moments started to slip away from them, and how did, and so I really built quite a long backstory, and through the way that I work, is it's not just writing it down. I kind of do like a meditation with it, where I really kind of like live out a memory, just by myself, but or with a I work with a great coach, Warner Laughlin. We do a lot of this work together, and it sorry, you're kind of experiencing it, trying to viscerally, like, let your body and your emotions connect with very specific details of memories, um and then all the way up until, what have the last couple years looked like? What has the care that Paul has given her? How has it impacted their sons? And I did, so it's a lot of imagination based, but then I did a lot of research as well. Just I read as many memoirs that I could find. Paul Kalanithe's When Breath Becomes Air was kind of my big jumping off point. It's a gorgeous, tragic memoir, but I would recommend it to anyone. It's really life affirming. Um, and there were a number of others that I read, and I also kind of traversed Reddit forums for people who are going through this themselves, and it just gave me a window into, and it's not you just talking about it, like, I feel like that the ball of kind of, yeah, just the deep, deep sadness and loss uh that we all, I suppose, go through at one point in time or another. But in particular, those, like, people who have lost someone to cancer, or who are going through, cancer experience right now. So I just compiled as much of that. I was really constantly reading that, constantly just going as deep as I could. Um, and then it was beautiful to then arrive on set with that, so I could look at, and Taylor Handley, who played my husband, was just an amazing, beautiful actor to work opposite. And, we would also kind of talk in, prior in the lead up to a scene and riff ideas, but that's kind of the beauty of acting. And one of the things that's so cool is you can just make all these decisions yourself, and another actor may have a whole different set of history, but if as long as it's filling you up with the emotions needed to just then connect with this other person, it was so beautiful to bring all that and then just be opposite people who are great at what they do and really vulnerable and open-hearted.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
just touched on like three different things that I wanted to talk with you about. So this is great.
Sorry, I went all over.
So
Yeah.
so first let's talk really quickly about working with the husband and son's those
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
Because it really does feel like you developed this history. It really feels natural. And so can you just describe a little bit more of working with Taylor, working with the boys to really feel like that was believable and that you all actually knew each other for a long time?
Yeah. Well, with Taylor and I, it was it was one of those moments where you just feel so at ease opposite your fellow actor. The first scene we did was when I get wheeled in, obviously, and then that scene where kind of I'm coming to and we're holding each other's hands and I say I'm so sorry. And we didn't have much of a conversation really even before then. I think we may have talked about we may have just kind of connected over our love and passion for acting, and and I think we shared a little bit with each other about our own families and what this role meant to us. And then we both just committed. It was like it's just so beautiful. I just felt like I looked in his eyes and he looked in mine, and we you just are like, I don't know, it's really wild how you can just make the decision to love a person,
Yeah.
and to see, and it might just be that you're loving this projection of what you've built, all this history, and that in the case, like that's why I do all that kind of work that I was looking in his eyes and I was thinking about the cabin that we had built together and the business we had built together, like these things that I had just created. And I don't know what he was necessarily thinking, but I just know that we were there with each other fully. And then Banks and Emmett, I mean, they were just beautiful boys. And it was really sweet because at one point, one of the ADs knocked on my door and said, "Hey, would you be down to go hang with Banks and Emmett for like an hour or something? Because they just want to like get comfortable, with you." And I was like, "Oh, of course, So I went over to where they were hanging out with their tutor, and we ended up spending the whole afternoon together. And we actually made Banks makes these short films. I think it's something he's done a few times on some of the sets he's done, and they're very silly. And I don't know where this one I'd happily approve if they wanted to share it with the world. It's just very very silly. I think I was like I don't know, I was a strict mother, and they were uh like there was I think something to do with like a macaroni man monster or something. Anyways, we just kind of got silly, and I got to know them a little bit more, and that was really helpful, to and also to get to know their mothers, and Emmett's dad came on set one day too, just to get comfortable. I started acting when I was 9, so I have a lot of empathy and understanding for what it's like to be a kid on a set, and also for what it's like to be that kid's parent. Um, and I also think I have, as a it's a weird thing to be a kid actor. Yeah, at least from my experience, I'm grateful for that experience, and it's a complicated business to navigate when you're that age. So it was really nice to just kind of like clear the air with them and see them as people and not, not bring any of my own like history of child acting into that. Um, and then, Banks has been doing this for a good number of years, and he really knows his craft. And, we were all in awe. And Emmett is also just this beautiful, you know, open-hearted kid. And I think this was one of his first things, maybe his first or second big roles. And I remember the scene in particular where we're saying goodbye to each other, and you know, the edit doesn't quite catch some of the back and forth between us. But I remember on the day it was really special. Kind of the moment when he really settled. Just like there's a lot of stuff going on a set for a kid, and the I just remember the team was very just kind of respectful of this moment and bringing it down, and it was just me and him, and I felt like we were able to, it was just beautiful. It was heartbreaking for me, and he just really dropped in a way that was really really cool, you know.
It, it
Yeah,
was a beautiful scene to watch
yeah,
too. It really
yeah.
was. So,
Mhm.
so in your preparation for Roxie's end, basically,
Yeah.
as you're studying about end of life care and um, all of the things that go with that, what was something that surprised you?
Hmm. Something that surprised me. I mean, I guess what surprises me, I don't know if this is a total surprise, but maybe it was just about getting to, you know, like seeing people who were able to, in the face of such a terrifying, finite thing, um, find such a strength. I spoke with some women at Gilda's Club Toronto, which is a beautiful place for people who have experienced cancer or going through it to, get support. And they actually sent me a video of a mother who she had, before she passed away, given this video to them. It was a message to her sons, and I think it was just a message to kind of, just the honest things that she was feeling at the time, and she wanted them to be able to share it with people who needed it, and so they shared that with me, and I was just, it's I was just blown away by, and also heartbroken by um somebody in that position who can, I mean, and I think it's different for everyone, and I think that, we should be, there's no right way to do it, and there's no right way to feel, and you don't have to be strong, you don't have to be a fighter, and there isn't, and it wasn't just, oh, I'm okay with this, but there's uh, a deep, powerful strength, I guess, in facing the ultimatum, or facing death, and um accepting that. And that was, I guess, the thing that I really wanted to, try to connect my heart to. Um, and it was, yeah, it's, I suppose that's something that surprised me, was seeing that in some of the people that I was researching, and also then, as I was lying in the bed as Roxie, having some of those thoughts kind of, come through me of being open to what's after, and um, accepting mortality. Um, yeah, it was an opportunity I felt to like explore something that we all like to pretend isn't going to happen to us,
Yeah.
and it really, even just as I talk about it, I feel myself kind of settle more into this deeper way of existing. And I think that that was a gift that I took from playing Roxie. And it's easy when you're living your day-to-day life to kind of go back to that. Oh, now I'm up here in this highly anxious, worrying about all these things that don't matter, you know. But when you're faced with that, it strips all of that away, and that's I think yeah, we'd probably be better off as a society if we could all really like reflect on that
Yeah.
constantly. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny because you actually just answered my final question too, which is what's something that you learned from Roxie? So,
Yeah, I would say that's, I mean, I learned so much. I learned so much. Yeah, I think gratitude was immense and continues to be in the aftermath of exploring that and learning about so many people. And, I think I probably carry yeah, it's scary because you just don't know, what curveballs life will throw at you. And I have come away from it, with a real appreciation for what I have, and a desire to continue to remind myself of that. And I think that she showed me a strength and maybe like a meditative um uh a meditative way of existing, I guess. Or I think she did kind of open me up to meditation. That might sound silly, but it was necessary in a very um in a noisy set, as any set can be, to hold on to that, her inner world, and to be kind of like stuck in this bed while everything is moving around and she's just experiencing something so monumental. It required me to find a stillness and a focus within myself that uh, felt like a bit of a superpower, and also, yeah, helped kind of just, yeah, clear the noise that was happening externally and maybe internally too. But no, she taught me a lot about life and also about the craft of acting. It was a real gift to play her.
it's a wonderful, wonderful performance. I loved it so much. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Karen.
sharing your gift, for sharing Roxie, and congratulations.
Thank you.